All I remember was going like, and Cynthia looked at me and go like, Michelle, I know you can do this. Don't let her get away, this wicked witch.
I felt very compelled at the moment that they offered this moment to me because I needed to find the urgent reason for this movie to be made. It couldn't just go make Wicked. It was, why now? And the words of Stephen Schwartz and Winnie Holtzman were so prophetic. They wrote this in 2002, right after 9/11, and sort of the world in transition, about to go into war. And we're again being tested again in our world right now, where people are, the storyteller has been revealed, and they don't know all. And it's up to whatever this generation chooses to be to see what the story we make for ourselves. And this absolutely tackles that in the most grand cinematic scape that you can, with the intimacy of this relationship. And so that for me was the urgency of making this movie. And I thought I had the right skill sets to be able to pull that off, that you can't just do a musical and just have dance numbers on top of things, that I understand it in a way that really can integrate it and use it to help tell the themes of this story.
Are people born wicked? Or do they have wickedness thrust upon them?
How familiar were you with Wicked before all of this?
Zero. I mean, I heard of Wicked because, you know, sometimes when I'm in London and I go to the area where the theatres are, West End, and you see the black hat and the green face, and you go, oh, okay, Wicked. But it's not Wizard of Oz. Huh, interesting.
I've loved Wizard of Oz since growing up. It's part of my family who were immigrants coming from China to the United States and dreaming in that yellow brick road, walking that, meeting the wizard one day, proving yourself to this place to be accepted. That's deep ingrained in me. I also saw it before it was ever on Broadway, Wicked, and it was a revelation. It was the most cinematic story I'd seen on stage before, and I remember thinking, wow, someday some director is gonna do this really well. It's gonna be awesome. And so 20-something years later, it's crazy that I get to do it.
Something has changed within me.
She doesn't give a twig what anyone thinks.
And I hadn't gone to, I must admit, I hadn't gone to the theatre for a while. The past few years just couldn't find the time, which is terrible, and sort of like lost my way. And I've always loved musicals, like, you know. I used to watch all of them all of the time. So when Jon M approached me and said, read this, I would love you to be my Madame Morrible. So I had no idea what he was talking about. So I read it and I go like, John, she sings. You know I don't sing. And he goes like, nah.
You know, in the show, Madame Morrible is very obviously the bad person from the very start. I mean, her name is Morrible. Getting over that her name is Morrible, to hide that, I thought they were stealing a drama when you know too early in that. And we needed all the tension and drama we could in this movie so that we're always ahead of the audience.
So then I went to New York. I had Mark arrange for me to watch, because I needed to know. It's been around for 20 years, right? It's why? There must be a very good reason. There's this amazing legacy and when I got to the theater and I looked at the audience, that already blew me away. It wasn't so much, oh, okay, we're going to see monkeys fly and things like that. It was the range of the difference of ages. And it wasn't just little girls, you know, and boys, men, older the grandparents, and little girls, young adults, and all those kind of things. When I watched it, I began to understand what it was, because there's so many interesting nuances that we find so relatable, about being unseen, about not being heard, about being ostracized, about all the difference, rejection, and, not accepting who you are, the journey of self-discovery.
She's the best person to hide that. I know from her real life that she has extreme power, and yet she's so gracious and warm and elegant. And you want to prove yourself to her. It's not about, oh, I need to prove myself to this person. It's like, you want nothing more in your life than I want her to love my movies for some reason, that she has this power. So I love that if she could bring that to this role and overcome being named Morrible, that's what we want for Elfie. And at some point, that the betrayal will feel deeper. So she was one of the only people who had, in my life, the only person that had the skill set and the presence to do that and very efficiently, because you only have certain moments to do that, and ultimately be the true Wicked Witch in this story, probably.
Don't be afraid.
I looked at Madame Morrible, in the theater, she's much bigger, she's larger than life, and she is wicked. I mean, if anybody was the Wicked Witch, and that would be... That was when Jon and I, we said, no, when she comes off, she shouldn't be that. Because she has her own dreams. Who is Madame Morrible? She is the dean of the University of Shears. To be able to find someone who can learn to exercise and practice magic. And she's very lonely. She's the only one. Forget the wizard, he's a fake. And her magic is not strong enough to open her dream book, the Book of Enchantment. So for her to discover Elphaba was like her dream come true.
I am Oz the Great and Terrible.
It was sort of like very clear when we got in there, because the versions that were in one movie, you had to strip out all these songs and then change the story, and it suddenly wasn't Wicked anymore. And part of this was to really crystallize what Wicked is. And what we realized is once you define it in two, it gave us the room that made sense more, because there's certain logic points, there's certain emotional structures to it in the show that you get away with in the theater, but you just can't in a movie. It became very, very clear. So if we said defying gravity is the last thing, then we have to move backwards. That has to be the most, and this was our biggest challenge and haunted me all the way through, was can it feel emotionally satisfying, that is the last thing we need. Okay, then the way it's made, even defying gravity, can't just be on its own. We have to actually sort of open it up a little bit. We have to see what does it mean for Elphaba to declare it's me. We have to sort of bring in the whole story. Okay, then we have to see her in the past. Then we have to see, she doesn't just fly randomly the first time. And it's not the broomstick that has the power that's making her fly and that she's holding on to. It's from her. Okay, so she has a relationship with nature, which is maybe why she cares for the animals. Oh, she's from nature, so maybe she has a relationship with gravity from the moment she's born. Okay, so if that's the thing that she has to decide, gravity is some sort of spiritual thing within the land of Oz. And when the wizard came in and sort of took over, hijacked that story, made Shiz University, which was built by animals, into his university, why he puts his emblem up there, and we get hints of that there's a history there, and he's hijacking all of these stories, and that she's the one who has to break that pattern. That all came from defying gravity is the end thing, how do we get there? And so that by the end, that she flies a little bit in A Wizard and I. So by the time she flies in defying gravity, it is earned, it is won, but maybe she doesn't fly right away. She has to actually fall before she knows she can fly. And that was a big moment of her whole life flashing in front of her. And what does she need to fly? Not for anger, not for vengeance. And she sees her younger self. She knows, it's me. Whatever way you want to interpret that, it's me. And then she flies up and she sings that. We are on our feet for her to do that.
I love hearing you talk about this. It's amazing.
I get very excited because we've been talking about it for 3 years.
It's the wizard who should be afraid of me.
My favorite day on set must be when I had to sing, because I was so terrified of it to start off with, and because everybody was singing live, of course, Cynthia and Ariana, why wouldn't they sing? And I remember on that day going, I'm the dean of Shiz, she's always respected and regal, and all I remember was going like, and Cynthia looked at me and go like, Michelle, I know you can do this, I've heard you do this, and she said, just have fun, just do it. So then, we held hands, and then once you remembered you're Madame Morrible, this is what you do. This is how you have to bring Elphaba into your world and convince her. So you forget about the fact that you don't know how to sing or whatever, all those kind of things, and you walk in. And that, I think for me as an actor, was joy.
You're green.
I am.
Point where we're looking back at our story. We're looking at the fairy tales we were told. We're looking at what does a hero look like? What does a villain look like? What is beauty? Who gets to tell those stories? And I think we're at a time where we're deciding how to react. And I think the story is about when you find out the truth, when you wake up from this dream, which is why we built it sort of like a dreamland when you come into this, and slowly but surely it sort of unpeels itself into a more real reality. When you find out the truth, who do you become then? I think that's where we're at, and to see the two versions of that, to see Elphaba break free of trying to prove herself to anybody, and to really literally declare, it's me, I'm the one who has to change this, and also see Galinda, who probably has the same feelings, but it's not ready to pop her bubble yet. I think those two things are kind of where we lay in the middle of. We want to be alpha. We want to have that kind of courage. And portrayed by Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo, who are amazing at these roles and actually live these roles. Both have extreme power and both react in very different ways and learned each other through the production of this. I think that is an empowering feeling to have, and that's the power of movies, is you get to live out two choices. And I think through the process of both movies, you'll find how they integrate. But I think this one was. I hope people come out empowered and excited, and feel like they can own their space, because it is our responsibility. Every generation is tested to decide what the story we all hope to be, what the stories that were in the past that we're letting go of, and what we are and what we can do today. And so I think that going to the movies is the only medium that actually does that for us, where it forces us to put down our phones, sit in the dark, and see the world through someone else's eyes.